You're on.
Okay. Well, hello there. Welcome to the Rethink Live. You're probably thinking, "Ooh, who's this guy? He's usually sitting over there. Now he's in the main seat." Well, it turns out our host here is on a little bit of vacation. Probably over in Mar-a-Lago checking out, see if he can get his hands on some forbidden documents.
So he's collecting his 20% with our work tonight.
But anyway, hey, I'm David Cunningham. Nice to have you here with the Rethink Tank Live. I'm going to be your guide, your host for all things here political, because I think we got a politically charged show here tonight.
Bigly.
A lot of breaking information, a lot of good stuff here. It's a real shame we couldn't have Alex for this one, but I think we might be better suited for this one here. So anyway, let's have you, Don. How about you introduce yourself here to ladies and gentlemen at home?
Everybody, Don Lloyd here. This is my third visit to the Rethink Tank.
So.
And I'm very excited to be here. And that's all I have to say right now.
Yeah. And well, we can't forget the guy, the wizard, the man behind the keyboard that's making it all happen here. Brian.
What's up, people? BC Mall here. And don't forget to get your ski passes and stay active.
Oh, always with the ski passes. We got a couple months here until that goes live.
I do not like winter.
About a month.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I'd probably rather be in Florida right now, to be honest.
Me too.
So anyway, we got a couple topics here for you. So let's run through what we're going to be talking about today. So the big topic are the headlining here. The Speaker of the House has been removed, a historic event in United States Congress history. We're going to be talking a little bit, obviously, the Israel-Palestine conflict, the war just raged here. Just started, Saturday?
Yes. Yeah. Horrible.
We have Canada. It's going to be it's going to start looking into your podcast, blocking you out, won't let you say or speak anything unless it's an approved country narrative. And finally,
I like country music.
Well, who doesn't like a little country music going on? And finally, the pistol braces have been struck down by a judicial court. What does this mean for the NFA and gun rights in general?
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. So let's get started here. Well, we just had a historic moment in the House of Representatives here. For the first time in American history, the House of Representatives voted off the Speaker of the House. So what led us to this point? So if you remember, probably about 6-8 months ago, roughly, once the Republicans took over the House, they needed a speaker, and for some reason, the Republicans don't have a mainstay speaker. They don't have a Nancy Pelosi. It's been different pretty much every time the Republicans have taken the House. It's always been either a different person or someone's kind of preceding someone else.
It's a difficult job.
Yeah, and no Republican seems to want it.
Right.
So it seemed like Speaker McCarthy was about the only person that really wanted the job and just had that appetite and desire to go about it. So with the slim majority in the House, you needed about every single Republican on board to be able to vote him in. So there was 15, 20, 100 rounds of voting where they just deny. And a lot of this was led by the Freedom Caucus here with Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and they were not in favor of Kevin McCarthy. So
can you blame him though? I mean, think about this, friends. A Republican from California. How can you trust a Republican from California? Seriously, that means that they're like nearly a Democrat.
Well, you could
it's
see
in the water.
I could cut it as he be a little more moderate, see things from the California side, get some of the California support on his end.
How well did that work for us under Nancy Pelosi?
It was the exact opposite. Nancy Pelosi was all California all the time.
It was crazy.
So what we saw here is they made a lot of concessions backdoors, and Kevin McCarthy said, "Hey, all right. Your big thing, Matt Gaetz, you want single issue spending bills. You want to be able to go through and not just run a up or down, yes or no vote on whether or not we continue doing government or continue funding the government." And turns out Speaker McCarthy said no. So they did that continuing resolution right when we came up to the government shutdown and all that theatrics, kicked that can for another 45 days. And to Matt Gaetz' credit, he had a lot of teeth, said, "You're out."
Well,
you're
he
done.
kept his word. Matt
did.
Gaetz kept his word.
Yeah, and he ousted him
He sure did.
to the,
Yeah.
and it was, I'd say it's pretty surprising. There wasn't a whole lot leading up to this particular instance. It just seemed like you're looking at your phone on Friday or Saturday, and he's out of there. He's gone. And there's a lot of, oh boy, it just makes it look, so the media narrative on this one is the Republicans just don't know what they're doing. They're just kicking each other out. They can't agree with each other. But I think kind of my initial thoughts on this was we saw an interesting scenario where someone like Matt Gaetz stood up and said, "Hey, I want things done my way," and the rest of the party, probably 90% of the party, isn't in favor of him. And then all of a sudden, hey, stop, had that power to be able to do that. Brian, you got something you want to say?
Yeah. Alex.
Oh, Alex, back from the grave.
He couldn't resist. So he said a California Republican is what a children's book called A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing.
There you go. There you go, Alex.
So, Don, what are your thoughts here?
Well, Matt Gaetz is doing what his constituents want him to do. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. So
let's go down the list. Excuse me. Of the things that Matt Gaetz was expecting to have happen. He was expecting a Hunter Biden subpoena. Didn't get it except for the gun charge, which is the only thing that the big guy can't be charged along with him.
Yep.
He was expecting a Biden impeachment by now. Sure, we have Biden impeachment inquiries, but nothing's happening so far with that. He was expecting the J6 videos to have been released publicly, not just to Tucker Carlson. They didn't happen. He was expecting the defunding of Biden's Department of Justice after Trump had 91 count indictments put on him. Didn't happen. And we also have the balanced budget that never happened, and then doing the continuing resolution and kicking the can down the road. McCarthy just didn't believe, I think, that Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus would do what they said they were going to do, which was remove the speaker.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And that's where we are.
Yeah, showed he had teeth to that. And it's going to be interesting here because I think a lot of there is some consternation that they don't want this. It was they put in place when they voted him in, said, hey, only 8 of us can. There's it's like a real small threshold that if like 8 people vote you out, we can bring it to the floor instead of the traditional quarter or I think even half that would be needed to say that. So I wonder if he's going to give that power up because that's a lot of power to have, especially with the Freedom Caucus, who so far has been very, very tight. They are voting in a very nice little block. Brian, you got something else? Nope. Oh, all right.
One thing that I did think was interesting was the reaction of some of the conservative media and how they were really attacking Matt Gaetz. Charlie Kirk was one of them. Now, I think it was really just because there are certainly other things that could be done than spending this time on McCarthy. Now we gotta, the Republicans look like morons. The Democrats are laughing at us. They're using it to raise money.
Oh, absolutely.
For their elections. And so it raises the question of who comes next.
Yeah. So there's a couple candidates here that's all across the news here. The new one, Kevin McCarthy, probably gonna make another run. And
didn't he say he wasn't going to though?
He did say it. He came out here earlier today and yesterday and said, "Hey, I'm back in this race."
Back in the race.
I'd like to see exactly what the voting blocks look like on these behind closed door meetings. It's obviously there's about 8 or so of the Freedom Caucus that are voting together and saying no, no, no.
Well, he had such an easy time getting it the first.
Yeah. So it's going to be a battle. Whoever's going to have this is just going to have an uphill fight of trying to get the Freedom Caucus, the neocons, all these different factions of the Republican Party to just go in the same direction.
Something tells me Donald Trump has an easier route to re-election than
He
Kevin
might, yeah. I
McCarthy
think he
does.
might be a bit more popular than any single member of the Republican caucus.
That's very true.
And you have the reports. Obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene throughout. I throw my full support with Donald Trump as Speaker of the House.
Oh, I know.
I would love for that to happen. It'd be so entertaining.
Well, the entertainment factor would just be huge,
through the
right?
roof. Even if it's just for a couple days.
Yeah,
Just
it would
let
just
me
be
see it.
huge.
You would run roughshod
Oh,
everywhere.
it would be great.
But I get the
think
feeling
of what Saturday Night Live would be like.
Oh, see, I think some of the better episodes of Saturday Night Live, or at least some of the funny ones, are like the real Trump focused ones. He's too easy to make fun of and just too easy to copy. Oh, there's a lot of fun stuff there. But I think I think what we're going to come down to, I think Jim Jordan's probably going to be the next Speaker of the House. I see him getting that. See, Trump endorsed him full on.
Yes.
And he's got the respect of a lot of the kind of the more classical establishment conservatives, while also being on the same side as the Matt Gaetz, the Freedom Caucus. Well, where I see a lot of Jim Jordan's issues is on the other side. He is such a polarizing figure for the left, even more so than I think Matt Gaetz, Speaker, or Kevin McCarthy, or even Steve Scalise. They hate his guts.
Yeah, Jim Jordan, not a member of the Freedom Caucus, so that's helpful for him, at least with his vote. Still works with both sides. He does. He's really, really smart and knows how to put a line of questioning together, which is why the Democrats hate him, because he really knows how to.
He clowns on people when they have when they bring him in for not necessarily indictment, but they bring him in questioning.
He reminds me a lot of Rand Paul, and the same style and the same rhythm of asking questions.
Yeah, he's very slow. He's very methodical. He's not excitable. That's why I don't like Matt Gaetz a little bit when he does that, because it's theatrics. It's all about and he's a bit more. He'll death by a thousand cuts when you're being questioned by Jim Jordan, and he is a little. He gets a little deep into the conspiracy theories on the Republican side of things.
Sure. But it'd be great for Ohio to have a speaker from Ohio.
Yep.
It's always a good thing, and we'll see what happens. I would love to see Jim Jordan. I don't have anybody else that I would really, really like to see. Yeah. So
it's any other options just going to be more of the same, more of the establishment. I really want to see a wrench. That's why when I saw this and I saw Matt Gaetz, he's one of the few politicians who will speak long form conversations in podcasts. A lot of them will stick to their CNN, stick to their Fox Newses, because they want to have 10, 15-second clips and they're done, because they don't want to go into policy. Matt Gaetz will go in depth into policy. I may not agree with all of his policy decisions. Sure. I think his stance on education is a little. He's just trying to defund all of that, and I don't think that's necessarily the best thing. But the big thing I really want to see is that single issue, single subject.
Oh, good.
Oh, we're good. Okay. We'll be able to take back accountability with these politicians and really get the country back on the right step here. When a lot of this money in politics is based on just getting your slice of the pie and making sure no one reads it, because they have these 5,000-page bills that come through, and this is just.
No one reads these bills.
No, and 4 lines of text can alter your life dramatically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be nationwide. It's only just it's just that little slice.
Well, what do you think about the line item veto? Giving the president the line item veto, like a lot of states have with governors.
That one,
George Bush the first, George H.W. really wanted the line item veto. And I actually think I remember Bill Clinton saying one time that he would have liked to have had the line item veto.
It's a real double-edged sword. I could see it being used for good, for a lot of good, but I don't. For all the good I see it being used for, I think it's going to be used for the good of multinational corporations, those with a lot
Or
of
the party.
means. Yeah, the party. It's not going to be, oh, hey, give me back some rights. Oh, take away, do privacy laws. Or it's not going to be used in that sense where it's going to benefit me holistically. It's just going to probably hurt me in the long run for the most part. It all depends. It's a great tool, but it's also, any tool that we think can be good for the Republican Party also is a tool that can be used for the
Sure.
Democratic Party, the Green
Sure.
Party, or any other party of the sort. I see Brian. We got another comment here.
Yes. Alex said,
Uh-oh. Another one.
This is a
He
longer
should
one.
change his name.
He's on a bull run here.
Do you believe Jim Jordan is a good representative of the Republican Party? He says some good points, but he also says a lot of things that fuels the disdain against him.
He definitely does feel a lot of disdain against him. He's very polarizing. He's
Mhm.
not he's not like a Matt Gaetz where he'll basically just say things that I think most Americans agree with. Hey, let's get money out of politics. Let's have politicians stop stock trading. He starts going to more of that's what I don't like about Jim Jordan is the conspiratorial aspects of like the election denying, or really just going over the moon about the election denying. There's election skeptics.
I love Jim Jordan because I'm telling you right now, there is no way that Donald Trump lost that election. It was 100% stolen from him.
But I think he pounds on it. So when we see the public and polls come out that they don't like, it's like, all right, we're done. Yeah, maybe you didn't lose the election, but I'm tired of hearing about it, and I don't want to vote a guy.
That's
in.
that's a fair point.
And he just keeps he keeps kind of giving him that fuel, that ammunition, and it's used as a club because what you're seeing. Like, I hate keep going back to Matt Gaetz, but what you see. What a lot of the negativity on Matt Gaetz is from the left side is just some of that baseless pedophilia
They think he's a
accusations.
doofus, is what they think.
Yeah,
He's a
but he's
meathead.
not going off policy. At least with Trump, they're like, well, I don't like this policy. I don't like the way you're doing things. I don't like how you're doing that. At least Matt Gaetz, like, well, I kind of actually agree with most of it. Even AOC came out and said, hey, I like your single subject spending. I love how you're going to get rid of stock trading. So a lot of things we're starting to see this bell curve come all the way back with the progressives and this Freedom Caucus people are saying the same things, but just in a different flavor. It's really when they come down to social issues, that's where I think the big divide starts coming through here. But the speakership probably going to be wrapped up pretty soon here because there's a major funding that they're going to be allocating towards Ukraine. Was really on the chopping block here. And I think with this Israel-Palestine thing, how do I want to say this? With this coming to fruition, now all of the attention and the fervor to stop funding Ukraine or to put more accountability on that funding is now probably going to be washed over by this whole Israel thing. So there's an appetite to fund more war, and now it's war with the country that a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives feel for and have some sympathy for. I think it's harder for your typical Republican or conservative to have sympathy for Ukraine, just on the whole of it. But with Israel and Palestine, I think that's always been a hot button topic. Israel's very good about keeping kind of that focus on the Republican Party with the Christians. You see a lot of trips for Christian trips, youth trips that go down to Jerusalem, go down to Israel, and see all that. So I think this is going to get wrapped up probably end of this week for the most part. And I think we're going to have a speaker vote tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken. I think we're going to have a speaker vote tomorrow here. So on to the next topic. Oh, actually, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I'm all in for Jim Jordan. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think you'll be entertaining. I absolutely think you'll be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Trump, then let's go with Jim Jordan.
Yeah. So let's go on to our next topic here, and I think probably the biggest news here of at least the past several months. Palestine and Hamas invaded Israel. Most are calling this Israel's 9/11. This happened right at Saturday morning during the Jewish holy day, or the
I'm not extremely informed on all of the Jewish celebration, but I think it was the week of or the week after it was still a celebratory time.
Yeah. It was a specific holiday, and they came through and they invaded. And a lot of these border towns, border cities within the Gaza Strip, it's not pretty. It's absolutely not pretty. Rockets going through the Iron Dome, Hamas terrorists going through houses, butchering women, butchering children, just the rape and the it's disgusting. Rough.
It's horrifying. It's
rough to watch.
horrifying stuff. You know, shooters going to a music festival and shooting it, the people up and then dragging their dead bodies in the streets and
In a celebratory manner too.
in a celebratory manner.
Just
yes.
barbaric, absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, Hamas is the Nazis are the Nazis of today. I mean, they want to kill these people because they're Jews. And that's the only reason.
Yeah. It kill Jews and then they want to take their land. Makes sense that the holy site right there, Jerusalem, is just a fire, a lightning rod for a lot of this disagreement.
Yes.
And what we're seeing here now is this is Cold War. It's all out war, as bad as we've seen it. I think there's a conflict in 2014 lasted out 50 or so days. Conflict back in the early mid 2000s. That was several months. Here, with the way this is going, 'cause it seems like Hamas is fervent. They really, really want to get after Israel, and they've so far been the most successful at it to this point.
Yeah, this is the largest number of Jews being murdered in a single day since the Holocaust. And if you do the math, it's the equivalency compared to the population of the United States of some 30,000 dead. When you compare it proportionally.
Yeah. And especially with that, because Israel's not a big area, and I'm assuming it's probably a little more populated down the Gaza Strip as well. So it's, my heart does go out
Sure
to the Jewish community, especially those in Israel. I also we see a lot more. It used to be probably about 10 years ago. We see basically it was just 100% Israel support. You have some Free Palestine here and there, but I think as we've been getting closer and closer, or further away from the Donald Trump administration, we're starting to see more and more of pro-Palestine politics, pro-Palestine rhetoric, pro-Palestine just messaging out there. Seems to be the new voice. And definitely with this conflict, you're seeing a lot of celebrities, you're seeing a lot of those with influence supporting Palestine in this event. And I question some of them, especially like Rashida Tlaib had the LGBT flag alongside the Palestinian flag, and it's not good optics. You don't.
Well, it's flat out stupid, is what it is.
Yeah.
That I understand why she would be a supporter of the Palestinians. She's a Muslim. Palestinians are Muslim. Christians stick with Christians, Jews stick with Jews, Muslims stick with Muslims. There's nothing odd about that at all.
No.
But then to throw the entire Hamas are the Muslims that would just shoot up and murder gay people in a second because they're gay.
It's illegal to be gay in Palestine. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you get thrown off the roof for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it just shows they don't know. They don't know who they're supporting.
Yeah,
it's okay to support, but you have to at least go. Yeah, I don't like that they don't like LGBTQ
they don't
people,
understand,
but they don't. You have that next to each other, and that's not that group's not supporting you. Or you see, I'm sure you're not a big porn guy, but Mia Khalifa came out in support of Palestine, and I just don't see a world, and there's no world where there's support of her at all.
No,
she would be.
Correct.
She'd be damn near butchered.
Oh yeah,
on the streets of Palestine.
No question about
it. So you got to remember who you're supporting and what their values really are.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think it's okay to be questionable of the Israeli government,
sure,
Benjamin Netanyahu, and how they go about the supporting, or I don't even want to call it supporting, but how they go about dealing with Palestinians, not even just Hamas, but those who are not even associated with that terrorist regime, even though it is the government. But it's not good. Israel's not the hero either, and I think sometimes that gets lost upon those who are a little more fervent on Israel, where Israel is all good, nothing bad happens there. They also want to see Palestine die. They
Of
wouldn't.
course,
They
of
wouldn't.
course. Well, I think they're sick and tired of of having to defend themselves since 1948.
Yep.
That's a big part of it. And Israel has, at the behest of I don't know if this is the right word, upon being forced by the West,
Yep.
the United States, England, the United Nations, Israel has given up a lot of its territory. Israel used to have all of the West Bank. They used to have all of
The Gaza
the
Strip.
Gaza Strip, and they were slowly forced to pull back, and they did. In the capital of Jerusalem, there are Muslims who are in the Israeli government that are Muslim and still tolerant of Jews because they work as members of the society, and it's a very free and open society there. But they constantly getting bombed.
Yeah, it's no secret that they're under attack constantly. That's why they have the
Yeah.
Iron Dome system. That's why we
So
partially
it's
fund that.
easy for them to start developing some hatred for the people that are bombing them.
Yeah, no,
And for the people that are, even if it's not the people that are bombing them, for the people that are friends and relatives of people who are bombing them.
they have Israel has a no-win situation.
Yes.
The Middle East doesn't want to deal with Palestine. Their
No.
border up Egypt took the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt.
Yeah.
They dug a trench, put a bunch of garbage in that trench, and said, "No,
Yes.
we don't want you here. We don't want to deal with you." Countries like Jordan will take a few Palestinians every now and then. There is some Palestinians that do migrate out. Countries will
I
take
think
them.
even Jordan doesn't like a lot of the Palestinians.
They don't want the
and
flood.
Egypt doesn't want.
No,
I mean, they've got enough to deal with.
Dubai, Iran doesn't really want to deal with them. So
Well, Iran loves Palestine because they're the ones that handed them all the money.
well,
But we're the ones that handed Iran the money. Iran handed Hezbollah and Hamas the money, and Hamas sent our money from the bombs that Iran bought from the bombs that left in Afghanistan.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see the M4 carbines that have been
Yes.
tied back
Yeah.
to all the weapons that we left when
Yeah,
we
pulled
left.
out?
When we got out of Afghanistan, we just got up and all right. There you go. Have fun.
There was I was watching Newsmax yesterday, and there was one of the anchors on Newsmax is a former military, and he's looking at a picture of the Hamas invaders, and he's pointing out all of the U.S. issued firearms that they were carrying. So this is a big nightmare. This is with American dollars, with American military equipment,
modern-ish military equipment.
So, this has Biden's name written all over it. Not that Biden said, "Hey, go bomb Israel." But when you hand $6 billion to Iran, what do you think they're going to do with it?
Yeah. Any thoughts here, Brian?
So I actually just there was actually a few things that I wanted to say.
All right.
Just to fill the people in on the size and the population of Palestine, West Bank, and Gaza. Palestine is 2,400 square miles with a population of 5.3 million. And West Bank is the size of 1,400 square miles with about 60 of it, 60 square miles being the Dead Sea, and a population of 3 million. And Gaza is only
the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, the Gaza Strip is only 86 square miles.
86 square miles
with a population of 2 million.
Holy shit,
man!
That's probably got to be one of the most densely populated places in the world.
And Ergat has a couple things he wanted to.
Oh man, he's got a
What's
hat trick.
up with
Huh?
this guy?
He
Yeah.
so
Did you find those documents, Mar-a-Lago?
he said, should
I think our middle.
should this issue be flooded with our tax dollars over the American communities that will have poisonous water or being flooded with illegal alien gangs?
Oh, that's a great question. I
Ooh.
can answer that.
All right.
I have been watching the speeches and so forth of Netanyahu prior to his ouster, and then again now that he's back. And he's always said that the Israelis don't need money from the United States. They just want the support of the United States and the West to fight for their own freedom. And they do need assistance with having weapons made available for them to purchase, not be given to them, but for them to purchase, because Israel obviously can't make all of the weapons that it needs to manufacture. So I don't necessarily know that we would be spending a ton of money. Certainly there'll be a bill for some X billion amounts of dollars going for, refugee support, but not refugee support, but support for the injured, and maybe help with hospital things,
humanitarian support.
Yeah, humanitarian stuff, which is what all of the Western nations are going to do. I don't think we're going to find ourselves funding the war like we've been funding in Ukraine. I just don't think we're going to, and I don't think that's what Netanyahu's going to ask for.
I think we will be funding some of this war. I think we give roughly about $3 billion a year to Israel for various different things.
That's like a drop in a bucket.
It is, which is scary.
Yeah, frightening.
That's the scary part. But
it's only $3 billion.
What I'm going to look for in some of our politicians here, and we're going to pick on Matt Gaetz here again since he's the star of this show.
Why
not? So what we see is a lot of kind of anti-Ukraine. I don't want to say bias, but definitely there's
tired.
There's a section of the Republican caucus that is sick and tired of dealing with Ukraine, funding the war and giving money without accountability. Now we're going to see some of these same people who are tired of funding Ukraine to go, well, we'll just give Israel anything they want. Blank check. Here we go. What do you want? You got it. We're your boys. And
that's true.
And
I think that's true.
This is where we're going to start. I want to, because very rarely do we ever get two situations like this where we're tired of funding this. At the same time, we got this going on over here. So we're going to see who's principled. Who stands by their guns? Like, no. Israel's fine. Israel already gets funding from us. They don't need any more. Do we accelerate some of what we've already funded? Like, oh, hey, well, I guess we'll fast track this jet or something to you. Fine. That's one way to go about it. But to just keep on this military industrial complex of constantly finding the next war and the next battle.
So that really right there, I think, is where our problem lies. Why do you think people like Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney? Liz Cheney is a great example.
Yeah.
One term, 2 terms. I don't know how many terms.
Might have been one.
Maybe she had 1 term, and she's vastly more wealthy than she was when she went in.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Funny how that worked.
The Cheneys just continue to make money. The Bushes continue to make money. They make their money through this industrial war complex because they are able to invest in the businesses that get the contracts.
Yeah.
And
they have eyesight on what contracts going to be. They know exactly what they're going to pay.
Yeah. And Liz Cheney's going to know anyway, because right now contracts are being written up to send to manufactured products to go over to Israel to help them fight this war. And our people in Congress are making money off of that right now.
Oh,
so of course they're going to continue to vote to fund the wars because they're voting to fund their pocketbooks.
Yeah, and they set the price. I don't believe outside of very few military equipment, but specialty military equipment like the F-22, that program they just set they name their price, the government pays it.
That's it.
They name a budget. I'll actually give me a little bit more. The government pays for it. So you're seeing all these bombs. Just the margins must be absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. And on the same front, you have Lockheed Martin. They're understanding that the public gets this now. There's enough information out here that we're funding all of this, that they're lobbying for it, and now they're starting to. It used to be the left has hated this, absolutely hated this military industrial complex, hated Afghanistan, hated Iraq.
Oh, now they're part of it,
and
too,
now
man.
they're funding
they're big
pride
time in it,
parades.
too.
Have you seen the Lockheed Martin pride parade?
Oh, are they
flag?
really?
They
No, I
are.
haven't seen that one. That's fascinating.
It's coming full circle on some of the support here. So I wonder which of the and also let's point at the Democrats here too. Which of them are feverishly want to give Ukraine their next dollar? They're damn near about ready to write their own check and go, all right, Ukraine, have it. How many of them are going to support the Israeli war?
We'll see. I don't know.
Is this a moral stance where Ukraine is all good?
I think initially, the first bill will be passed relatively simply.
Oh, absolutely,
easily, right?
And it's going to be tied in with Ukraine funding.
And
Probably.
feeding off of that point, Alex said, so the attacks by Palestine was funded by Iran a week after we send Iran $6 billion, even though Iran is outspoken enemy of the U.S. What do you make of that?
So
we talked about that. Yeah.
So I think the $6 billion there, I see that floated around a bunch. Let's take logistics. $6 billion is quite a lot of money. It's quite a lot of money to be used for buying. Let's just say they're using all of that to buy missiles and such. It takes a while to probably smuggle in that many. Almost 4,000 missiles have been already fired over the past weekend. It takes a lot of time to get those missiles over there. So this has been going on for quite a while.
Well, they could have been building up their arsenal all that time, right? Especially since we left Afghanistan, because the first thing that I was thinking when we pulled out of Afghanistan and left all that equipment was that stuff's heading over to
oh yeah, we're just leaving it. We're not defending that.
It's heading over to Iran and to the to Gaza, and it's going to be used against Israel because they're the common enemy of all of those Middle Eastern.
The majority of the Middle East.
Countries.
I think what we saw with the Abraham Accords too, with Donald Trump Jr., is the UAE surprisingly not really too much involved with this, and I think there is some discourse that the Iranians don't want Israel to start making deals, building relationships. A lot of these other Middle Eastern countries, because we're seeing it head that way. The world wants peace in that region, except for several countries don't want peace.
The adults want peace.
Yeah,
right. Even Saudi Arabia is becoming. They're not the Saudi Arabia of 9/11 anymore, and they're and the UAE is another one. Egypt.
Yeah, right? Egypt is in support-ish of Israel. I don't say full support, but support-ish.
But they're in support of let's not have wars. Yeah, because Egypt is certainly tired after Iraq and right. I mean, they're just tired after that.
And I think Israel's got a uphill
Libya
battle. They got an uphill battle as well. Imagine having, probably the best way to think about it is imagine having an unwilling neighbor that lives in your backyard and just refuses to leave.
They won't turn their Jimmy Buffett music down.
They're constantly a problem, and the rest of the world goes, you're good. That's your problem. We gave you this land, so now this is your deal. This is your problem. Yeah. And then at the same time, the world goes, well, we don't quite like how you're dealing with all these people. I don't think they're dealing. I don't think they're treating them the most humanely. They control a lot of what goes on in the Gaza Strip. They're able to turn off electricity, turn off water.
Yeah,
That's not humane
it's not
for a place for Israel.
But Israel had to do that after being bombed.
Why do they have to have the control to begin with? Having that control, I think, is part of the issue. And in being able to do that, so we're told, all right, we'll let you just do what you want. It's your choice. You go under the governance, and that's how Hamas came into power, like 1996, 1998. So when they came into power, they voted them in. And the United States didn't like the initial. So the history with Hamas, the United States didn't like the first people they're going to vote in. So they kind of rummaged around, made some things happen, and all of a sudden Hamas is now
we
the
love messing with elections,
we
don't
do,
we?
and that's it never seems to benefit us. Or I'd love to see the opportunity.
We're
where it
really
does.
the worst at it. What was the last election that we messed around with? Who did we get? Oh, Joe Biden. That's who we got. Now I remember. That was the last election that we interrupted, and man, look who we ended up with.
So this also is another talk of America. Do we just go back to being kind of national? The nationalist perspective of America is like we're done being the world police. We're done involving ourselves with all this issues because it seemed to be causing more harm than good. We might also be the conspiracy theorist in me thinks we're probably involved in a lot of this just so we can keep these countries down, keep them under a peg, so they don't compete with us on the world economy stage. We tried to do that with China, with the Korean, the Korean Peninsula, with a little bit with Japan, but we did it with Russia when we took all the oligarchs, put them into power, and now they're starting to come out of that. We want to see the rise of the Soviet Union again. They want to see the rise of the old Russia, and it's coming back to bite us in the ass.
It is.
So, you got any wrapping thoughts on this, Don?
No, I sadly I think that it's going to be a long road ahead for all of that entire region, for the Israelis and for the Palestinian people that are there. It's going to be a living hell.
Yeah, my heart goes out to everyone who doesn't want to be involved with this.
And that's the thing. Somewhere on the West Bank, there's a mom and a dad that have a family, and they want to try to leave to get away from the war, and Hamas won't let them leave.
Yep,
they're not allowed.
Yep, because they do use them as human shields. And part of that is just logistically just how tightly packed that country is, because the war zone is all of the Gaza Strip. It's not a section over here, it's everywhere. The
sad reality is, if Israel really wants this over, if the world really wants this over, then the West Bank and Gaza needs to be obliterated. That's the sad truth.
Yeah, that's probably the most extreme part of it. But I think you put it.
I don't know that you can negotiate this one.
I don't think you can either, because both sides want to see the other side gone.
Right,
absolutely gone.
The reality of creating a two-state solution is done. That existed 4 or 5 years ago, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
Well, now have you guys seen the phosphorus bombs going off? Molten phosphorus. Dropping down
makes the sky red.
Well, they basically just explode, or they melt phosphorus and drop it out of the air. It's it was against all the UN treaties and stuff.
Oh, against the Geneva Accords.
Yeah. So they're using tactics that have been taken
internationally frowned upon.
Yeah.
Do you have any wrapping thoughts here, Brian?
Nope. It's really sad, and I'm actually really surprised by how small of an area Gaza is, with it being
extremely small,
less than 100 square miles for 2 million people.
It's nuts. It's like New York City, like Manhattan, or not quite. It's like Manhattan packed, but it's at the size of Rhode Island or something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy how small it is.
So, Don, let's go to a lighter topic here, but also pretty politically charged on this. So you might have noticed about a week or two ago, if you were a Canadian podcast listener and you decide you want to throw on your favorite Alex Jones episode, your favorite
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson.
He's my second favorite Canadian.
You're you throw a couple of those on, all of a sudden, I'm not allowed to listen to this. I'm not allowed to watch this. Why? Well, Don, the Canadian government has passed some rules stating that if you're of a certain size podcast, you have to adhere by the Canadian, we'll call it the Canadian podcasting policy, to where they have full control, or at least have the ability to be able to turn off and selectively choose who gets to see your content and who doesn't. This is, I think this is probably the first time we've seen this in a kind of a Western nation. I'm sure we see this a little bit in North Korea, a little bit in China, a little bit in these areas that are a bit more authoritarian in nature. But this is the first time, Canada could be seen as a mirror of the United States, maybe a bit more progressive mirror, maybe a bit more, a little colder. But I normally, when I've interacted with Canadians, they have, for the most part, same values as we do. There isn't too much difference. To see the government really lock down and crack down on what they claim to be misinformation and police thought, police ideas is concerning, especially when it's right in our backyard. What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Canadians, they don't have freedom of speech like we do here in the United States, right? So that doesn't exist. So I'm not surprised by it. But this Trudeau guy, he's a bad guy. He is an anti-liberty person.
He is
top to bottom.
actively taking away the freedom of the people in Canada. And
Yeah.
I think part of this stems from the truck riots.
Yeah,
or
those
the truck.
I mean,
trucker protests.
They went in and froze the
bank accounts
of the people that were giving money to these truckers, and just horrifying stuff.
Absolutely. And in a place that's supposed to, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. There is opportunities for a platform to get so large and to spread. There's people that spread misinformation. I don't think it's unfair to say that's an issue.
But everything we say here is true.
Oh, absolutely. There's no misinformation.
No,
We're a
none at all.
factually based live show.
100% facts. No opinions here.
We got a question here from the audience.
Yes.
I got
Alex.
two guesses.
Surprise.
Alex again.
He said our Silicon Valley overlords are doing the same to us. They just play stupid and pretend it isn't happening. Hence why none of their programs are open sourced.
Well, that's fair. I think the algorithms definitely are not open source. I know Alex and I had a conversation here last week that we would love to see you could reset your own algorithm. That's currently not possible right now. If you go on, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, there's no just I want my reset my algorithm. Let me re-roll the dice here to what
like
I really
an incognito.
Want. You could, you could do that, but it's all it. Do you trust incognito now? When it first came out, I probably trust it, but now I
like DuckDuckGo. It's just like the name of DuckDuckGo.
Well,
it's the coolest name to say.
It is a little fun,
right? And
I haven't tried that one.
Yeah, it's a nice little browser, and apparently no one can know.
Yeah,
who knows? I don't know.
But I think to Alex's question here, I disagree a little bit because I don't see. Yes, can you be downvoted in the algorithm? Can you be kind of blacklisted a little bit? But it's not. If someone wants to find your content, it'll be available. I can look on YouTube. I can search Rethink Tank. I can search the Alex Jones Show. I can search anyone I want. And if I know how to get there, I can get there. What Canada's doing a little bit differently is they are, in fact, they're telling you, no, you can't watch this. Even if you got a direct link, even if you have direct access, you're not allowed to watch it. You're not allowed to see it because we tell you so. And there is no reason given. There is no, I'm sure there's probably a review, but there's no, they're not telling you why this guy's bad. What are they saying that's bad? What rules are they violating? And it seems like a lot of this just comes down to I think podcasting is the last bastion, or at least the most recent bastion of free and open speech. The platform is the most open it's ever been. Schmuck like Alex here can set up this whole set here. Invest a little bit of money. As long as you have a microphone and internet connection, you're able to speak your mind. You're able to platform yourself. Give yourself decentralize information, and some people are going to use that to misinform people. It's absolutely going to happen. Some people are going to use that to say things that the narrative doesn't want you to say. And whether that's, anti-corporate speak, anti-Israel speak, Ukrainian Russian speak, it's not up to the government to tell you whether you can or cannot watch something. If I don't necessarily disagree like sometimes Instagram, YouTube, sometimes will throw up. It's like, oh, this is kind of misleading information. Okay, at least tell me why. Let me form my own opinions here. Because what you're eventually going to be doing, you're going to train an audience. And you're going to disenfranchise them to the sole point. They're going to start becoming extremists. This is how you get. This is how you breed extremism in your country.
Yeah. It's to me, all speech is free speech, in my opinion. Even hate speech that people disagree with. It to me, that's just what it is. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then you don't have to listen to it. I certainly don't have the right to stand in front of your bedroom window at 2 a.m. with a bullhorn screaming hate speech.
Yeah.
But if I really wanted to say hate speech, it should just be able to be
You have the right
in
to
the
speak.
manner in which I choose to say it, and someone could not do it. No one's forced or obliged to listen to it.
Exactly. and I think some of this is going to come into, that where I fear is this is going to start trickle down to other Western South countries. So at what point does Australia, South Africa, it is England, Spain, Germany, they all sudden start to, the Nordic countries, they all start to go, well, this doesn't seem too bad. I'm going to take this, take the same approach. Now all of a sudden, because it's enshrined in our constitution, we have laws that allow us to.
Was there anything that was there a protest or anything that triggered Canada into doing this?
I think a lot of this was, the pandemic, the virus. There was a lot of, misinformation, or at least speaking, skepticism of of the jab. However you want to phrase it.
God, I'd be in prison if I lived in Canada right now.
But there's definitely there was a lot of money thrown at these countries to buy this. Give it to your people. Sure. This is good. This is not bad at all. And you have a faction of individuals who are going, no, let's take a step back. Let's look at this. And you have the extreme end. They're putting microchips in you, 5G, Jewish laser beams,
and they're all loving it. They're like, I got a microchip in me, and I know what's wrong with me all the time.
But we don't. When you get to the more reasonable end of that conversation, it starts to bring up questions that they don't want you to think about, or the multinational companies don't please don't do that. So I think YouTube got rid of the dislike button, because you start to see a lot of, there's some advertisements on YouTube, and there's trailers, all sorts of different things, and people start downvoting it. I don't like this. I don't like this. And it's not good on the company's bottom line. So what they go, they go to YouTube and say, hey, get rid of the like button. Get rid of the dislike button. Yeah, I only want to see likes on this.
I always wondered why Facebook never had a dislike button.
I think part of it with social media engineering is they don't want their users might commit suicide. If you get enough dislikes, someone who's just not mentally.
It won't be Gen Xers doing that.
No, probably not. You get, I see the argument specifically for that, and I guess I'm not operating Instagram, or I'm not using Facebook to necessarily dislike things. I at least have the ability to be able to voice that. I can go on Facebook. I don't like that. I don't like this policy here. Some of my most favorite things to do is to go on local, like the real local in your community things.
Oh yeah,
and just see what people bitch about.
Oh yeah, they're fun. Its comments are fun.
Oh, you can go to a rabbit hole with those. Yeah. So, but again, I think my fear is, do we start seeing other countries take on this policy, and this trickles down, and eventually the Spotify's, the Apple Podcasts of the world start going, well, it's just easier to just go with what they say instead of kind of policing our own thing here and doing that. And now all of a sudden, we still have free speech here, but Apple, I don't have a right. This podcast doesn't have a right to be on Apple. Doesn't have a right to be on YouTube. We follow terms of service just like anybody else, but this isn't. They don't. It's a privilege, not a right. And at what point are we going to start to everyone just get deplatformed just because Australia doesn't like what you're saying about guns?
Well, I think companies like YouTube and Apple and whoever else does these podcasts, Spotify. I think they need to recognize that they themselves are the public square.
Yeah.
And if they don't recognize that, then that's where really the problem lies. If they start believing that they're not the public square, then certainly they can just start making their changes as they choose to. But
So how do you feel? So I got a policy proposition for you here.
okay.
So how do you feel about the government coming in and regulating some of these?
I disagree with government coming into anything, but go ahead.
Coming in saying, "Hey, social media platforms, if you're gonna base yourself as a social media platform, social media company, you have to be treated like a public utility. It's like the phone lines, or at least a landline, can't pick and choose who uses the phone line outside of paying your bill in like terms of that service. But as far as speech and political ideologies go, I could say as many hateful things as possible on a landline, and they're not going to shut me down." How do you feel about a policy like that for social media companies?
Yeah, as long as there's no additional federal fees associated
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of regulating anything.
Yeah.
But if the providers are starting to become the censorers,
Yeah.
then someone has to protect that, and the federal government and the court system is designed to be the protectors of the people for their First Amendment rights.
Yep.
That's the only place that we can go to as citizens, is go to our government saying they're violating our rights, and so then that would be the logical step.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. I think the founding fathers had it right. The order of the Bill of Rights is an importance of what they think it is. So, which leads us to our next topic here. We're on free speech now. We're on the Second Amendment. So, you told me you have a prepared monologue. So let's
I have a prepared statement.
let's hear it, Don.
Drink here. Okay. So, in an attempt to find any little way possible to grab your guns, Chairman Biden and his regime are finding themselves in a little bit of a pickle once again. Now, we all remember Joe Biden giving his stump speeches from his basement to those massive crowds of 15 adoring fans.
Yeah, we do.
When he promised he'd go after the assault rifles, and then later lied and said, "I never said that. You're a lion dog pony soldier." He probably had an ice cream headache at the time that he said that. Now, in 2021, the ATF proposed a rule for a product called pistol braces. Pistol braces were first marketed in 2012 as a way to stabilize a firearm when shot against a person's forearm or shoulder. It was designed so disabled people could safely engage in self-defense. Noble.
Yeah.
In 2023, the Attorney General signed a rule regulating pistol braces, requiring them to be removed from the firearm and destroyed, or the owner would have to register the pistol brace and the firearm and pay a $200 tax. Now, I don't know about you, but I would never, ever register my guns with the government. My wife doesn't even know how many guns I own. So after this product has been on the market for 9 years, the ATF and the Attorney General suddenly think they can make new regulations while bypassing Congress and that pesky Constitution. You know, the one that reads, "The rights of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Where are we now? Well, thankfully, a federal judge determined that the ATF rule is a violation of the Second Amendment, and you may continue to use your pistol braces publicly. For now, we're still not done. Considering Chairman Biden's failing gun grabbing record, I have a feeling that they're going to let this one go. David?
Very, very well put. So where I think the federal court came in on this, banning at least a stopgap on the stock ban. So I think we can both agree that the ATF as a federal agency cannot make laws.
They cannot make laws.
They can interpret laws,
Sure.
and they should, if they want to ban braces, Congress should should be the only authority that can ban it. The ATF is the I guess the authority to be able to force it.
Yeah.
So where I think this specific pistol brace ban comes through, really, it's going to start coming against the NFA. So.
Yes,
Don,
the NFA.
I'm sure you know what the NFA is, but those ladies and gentlemen here at home, the NFA stands for the National Firearms Act. It was put into power roughly about 20s, 30s, right around that time, and it was a legislation that was designed mainly to get rid of short-barreled shotguns
and the machine guns, the Al Capone machine guns. Was that later on?
No, that was much later on.
Ooh,
In fact,
okay.
the reason why I'm not a big fan of Ronald Reagan, he took away our machine guns. It was in the 80s. So you probably probably know about pre-86 machine guns, transferable machine guns.
I knew about the transferable machine guns, but the the Tommy gun was banned just after the Al Capone days.
So it was a short-barreled rifle.
Okay.
So the Tommy gun was probably about,
but it was a machine gun.
Correct. Well, most guns at that time, outside of like bolt actions and a
Yeah.
few like the M1 Grand, were machine guns. Like your small arms are mostly.
I've been
machine
trying
guns.
to find me a Tommy gun, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
have not found one.
Well,
I do not have one.
They're very expensive. They are. They're nice though. Oh my god, they are nice. Have you ever held one?
No.
Oof, I've held one before. Like just the weight, like
Yeah.
like heavy things like feel expensive. Boy, it
Yeah.
just feels
Yeah.
expensive. Nice milled receiver. Boy,
They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
not like they used to. There's a few, but we might go offline on that one.
All
So the NFA, there's a few rules that came through common use. So the pistol braces, there is estimated anywhere from 2 to about 10 million pistol braces out there in the wild, was bought along with a gun or
as a secondary market.
Yeah,
piece.
and
Yeah, okay.
so there's a bunch of these floating around here, and what the initial NFA was supposed to get rid of, the gun industry found a loophole for, or at least found an opportunity to be able to sell these and to be able to use. Because let's be honest, the stock is, or the brace is, shoulderable. It's able to use as a stock, and a lot of those.
Certainly, it didn't start out as a malicious thing.
Correct. And I don't think it's malicious now.
It's not. I own one.
And even the ATF at a certain point said, yeah, you can shoulder it, just don't do it all the time. How are you gonna enforce that? They know they couldn't enforce it, so they went down the road of banning it. But where I think this court case comes into play is they could take away not only the pistol brace, but this could challenge the NFA in general. Because the common there's a few cases in common law where enough people are using it, they are able to go, well, this is already in use, it's already in circulation, this isn't causing problems. I don't see the justification for this law being in place anymore, and a court system can strike it down. I don't know if any Supreme Court is going to be able to strike down the NFA. It's going to be this one currently, because we see a lot of the more conservative, mostly the Trump appointed justices are actually going to be real pro 2A, real pro gun rights, and being able to give more of that back to the citizenship. So this is why this really puts my ears up. I think we have an opportunity here to just go back to the way it was.
Well, I started to think about this because I own a short barrel AR-15 that has
the pistol brace.
It's a
pistol,
right? And it's a pistol, but I can't shoot it as a pistol.
No.
I mean, there's no way I could shoot this thing as a pistol.
Single-handedly.
Right? Because it would
without the brace. yeah.
hit me in my face, right? Yeah. So I have to have the brace in order to do it. So for me, here are the benefits for me. It's smaller, it's lighter. That's the gun that if someone was breaking into my house, I would hand that one to my wife because it's the easiest gun that there is to shoot compared to my 38 special or my 9mm. It's very accurate. It fits nicely in my safe.
Yeah.
If I want to travel with it, it fits nicely on, on the back of in my trunk. It's not long.
Well, and you can still carry it too, especially in Ohio, because it's
but I wouldn't
it's a
because
pistol.
I can still carry my I mean, it's still big.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be tough to conceal carry that.
Well, even in your truck, you can have it in the bottom seat of your truck,
Yeah.
or even underneath your driver's seat, and it's not quote unquote illegal, because I think you can't have a rifle with a magazine
Yeah.
near it. But with a pistol, you can
Can't.
still have the same caliber and be able to do that just based on the law.
So I started thinking, what is the problem with this thing, or with these short barrel guns? And I go back to, remember that movie Terminator?
The original.
Yeah, the original
All
Terminator.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And so you see what was
He had the mare's leg lever
Sarah.
action. You have the
the one guy, our hero in it, made a sawed-off shotgun.
Yep.
And then he hung it on his shoulder,
Yep.
and then he was able to then hide the sawed-off shotgun. So I kind of get that, because that would be easy to walk through a crowd, not be noticed, and so forth. And certainly we don't want that to happen.
No,
Right.
no.
Right. I mean, those are things that, I carry my 9mm with me in my 38 special, but I'm not going to carry a rifle into the bank with
it's
me.
just impractical. And even those who are using guns maliciously and are using it to commit homicides and commit murders and all sorts of different atrocities, they're using pistols because it's
Yes.
even easier to carry, and those aren't banned. The most gun crime and most homicides are pistol based. Now, I'm not against banning pistols at all, but definitely I think
I am.
the focus on banning these weapons shouldn't be with rifle based munitions, because even the calibers out of a shorter barrel is not as good. It's not as deadly. It's not going to punch with the same vigor. Where I think Washington general discourse goes is they're not educated on this, and this is one of the very few.
They're talking about.
This is what the very few kind of like policy decisions where just no is the ultimate goal. That's why the NRA, the Joe A, all sorts of different gun advocate groups are so effective, because it's essentially no. You're not writing policy. You're against all policy, and I think the abortion side of thing of that too, those groups also have the same thing where it's just no, none, don't want any term, don't want weak limit. I want nothing. So that's what makes them so effective on this case. And, it just shows, I finally think the court system's trying to work in our favor a little bit, because they all notice this is just a grab at guns. This is just an opportunity to put the average citizen away for nothing more, for a crime that they bought this. Imagine buying your car illegally and all of a sudden, well, you're arrested because you now own this. It's wild.
Well, what I think makes the rule unique is that it requires registration.
Yeah, if you want
gun registration doesn't exist in the United States. It may exist in certain states, but it does not exist in the United States.
I think outside of using NFA weapons, the registration isn't even. You can do price. I can sell a gun to you. You don't have a background check. It's a gun to me. It doesn't work only if you're a federal firearms licenser.
But I think New York, in order to have a firearm in New York, you have to register it.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think not in New York. I know there's special. I think if like a short barreled weapon, they ban certain assault. They don't ban like all assault weapons, but just like certain ones.
Okay.
Like there's certain styles of AKs that they'll just allow.
So it's just fascinating why they would put this on a registry.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I'm never going to register a gun. It's never going to happen.
Ultimately, they're going to use it to find out who has what.
Yeah.
And you could really test it too. If you want to buy a bunch of guns at once at a gun store, ATF, you have a high probability ATF knocking on your door. Like, hey,
sure.
Hey, Don,
sure.
why are you buying all these? What are you doing with that?
Don, you've been buying a new gun from different stores every single week.
Yep.
What's going on?
Yep.
They'll
eventually track it,
and they should. That's the kind of stuff that they need to look at, because then they can try to determine, is Don going to go shoot shoot somebody up, right? Or shoot someplace up.
Yeah, so that's the other thing with the Second Amendment. We see a lot of like red flag laws
Mhm.
where you, well, I could report you, and
Yeah.
I
What's the problem with red flag laws?
yeah.
Because the person could be lying.
And I think when you look at some of the statistics too, like domestic abuse is
Mhm.
probably one of the leading indicators of actually using gun abuse, gun homicides. That is probably the correlation is very much causation in this case. So I sympathize with with police. I know last week I probably wasn't the biggest fan of police, but definitely in a case here where you want you want your community to be able to you want to walk around your community and feel protected. Keeping those who have malicious intent at bay is what the police is all about,
Mhm.
and this is kind of why I go back and forth on red flag laws, because there's got to be it well, they just did an atrocity here.
Mhm.
Well, how do we not know this? Well, he was the domestic abuse advisor, but it, and it's a system that can and will be abused. That's why I'm not for it. But there's got to be a way you'd be able to take a look at it a little bit deeper than just saying, well, all gun
It-
grabbing is bad.
Well, it presumes guilt, and then
Does.
forces the person to go to court to prove innocence. So it's the opposite of what we're used to, and that's the problem with it. But I will tell you, when you go buy a gun, it's not easy. It takes time. You go through a background check.
It's a pain in the ass.
It really is. But you do that, and you go home and you get your gun, and you're real excited because you're looking forward to the weekend when you go to the range and go shoot it.
Well, even
Um,
just like I implore some of these, some of these more liberal-minded or
Mhm.
anti-gunners to go to a gun store and just talk to one of the clerks.
Yeah, talk. Tell
And
them
it-
where you stand and say, "Look, I'm not a big fan of guns, but I'd like to learn a little bit."
How many people fail the background check? A lot.
A lot.
More than you would believe. There's certain, especially around Cleveland, there's a few places that will charge you an upfront fee. You have to put layaway down to buy a firearm. And then when you pass the background check, now then they'll just use that as the rest of the
part of a
deposit for
credit
gun.
toward the
But
gun.
it's non-refundable. So if you
Yeah.
buy a very expensive gun and you get denied, that's just gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so I would like to comment, since
Okay.
we're not, now we're talking about guns, which is a lot of fun. 18-year-olds,
Okay.
when they go to buy guns. Now, we've recently had some mass shootings in the States where young people have legally purchased firearms.
Yep.
And then went and shot places up.
Yep.
And they passed their background check. And the reason they passed their background check is because they have no background.
Yep.
You can't, they can't look back to their days in juvie. They can't look back at their mental health record. And I think this is a problem. This is something that really should be looked at. When you have an 18-year-old going in to buy a gun that has no background, why don't we set it up so that they can go back to their mental health record and make a determination?
So there's a couple. I don't necessarily disagree on the premise, but I think it's the execution that I think both of us would probably disagree on. So in the United States, 18 is adult. Anything beyond that is at least seen as some sort of misdemeanor or shouldn't be held against you in your track record. I think there's probably times when you were 14, 15, 16, 17 that you do some dumb shit.
Sure.
You're going around, you're causing
I didn't get
ruckus.
arrested and I didn't go to juvie.
Correct. But is it probably fair to say that if it just takes one cop to kind of look at you the wrong way, and all of a sudden whatever you're doing, you're now in juvie and you're doing time.
It's possible.
Yep.
Yeah. Less likely now.
Well,
I
correct.
think,
Absolutely.
than it was
Absolutely.
back then.
Yeah. So there's I feel for some of the individuals that just wrong place, wrong time. Not necessarily a bad kid, but
Yeah.
I'm caught up in the moment. I'm doing something.
Took a fall for a buddy.
Yeah, and all of a sudden now I can't exercise my Second Amendment rights, even though I'm not an individual that has malice or is going to use it with ill intent.
Sure.
So there's got to be a cutoff, but at the same time, we need So, are you familiar with the Kia boys?
The Kia boys, yeah, they like to go steal Kias and
Yep.
Hyundais.
So that's Grand Theft Auto.
Like, what's
It's-
up with that?
Yeah, it's a felony in the high. It's a, I don't know if it's a tier 1. Alex probably be better to tell what type of felony it is, but
He's
it's
probably had several of them. in his
it's a high
courtroom.
tier felony, and a lot of these justices and a lot of these judges aren't prosecuting them as adults. They're just, all right, you go through the system, you're out. Those are probably, especially the repeat offenders. I have sympathy for the first time offenders. I do. But it's the second, the third, the fourth, the ones that know there is no consequences to this. My consequence is like 10 hours of my time every time I get caught doing it, and I don't get caught
and
doing
a
it
day
every
off
time.
school.
And those are the ones that are probably, there's going to be a correlation. If you're a former Kia boy,
Oh yeah,
you're gonna do some homicides, or
Yeah.
you're gonna have some gun problems.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be
yeah, but
pretty.
those guys also aren't walking into the gun store to buy their gun.
They're not, but under the situation you painted here, they can, especially when they turn 18.
They can.
And they can buy it legally. They can buy as many as they want, and then all of a sudden now there's that part of the system doesn't.
They can't go buy handguns. They can go buy rifles.
They
And
can go buy rifles.
They
They can also buy
they can buy AR-15s.
pistol ARs, pistol AKs.
They can.
Yep.
They can absolutely
Pistol
do that.
shotguns.
Yeah, but they can't buy. They need to be 21. So I have this frustrating thing happening right now. My son, who's 18 years old, is an electrician.
Mhm.
He goes and he works in places in Cleveland that are frightening at sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And so he has to get there early in the morning, and sometime and he's going to start leaving after dark. We're coming up on that time of the year, and he's not allowed to have a handgun in his car.
Yep.
He's not allowed to get caught with a handgun in his car.
Yep.
So, it's something that we're having serious conversations. Are we, I mean, we could get him one of those short barrel ARs, and
But that brings up a good point. You have the right to self-defense, and why should that start and end at an age? Because we're at a certain point, the government needs to decide, is 21 an adult or is 18 an adult? Because the government's having its cake and eat it too. You're 18 when you need to go into the military, when you need to, obviously vote. But you're 21. Well, you want to have some alcohol, have some tobacco in certain regions, and kind of exercise that.
And very likely soon in Ohio, you'll be able to be 14 or 15 and go get an abortion.
Yeah,
based on this new law that's probably going to pass.
They can't have their cake and eat it too. It's either 18 or it's either 21. Well, let's stop messing around with her. I see the arguments for both, and I see the cons for against. I don't want to allow someone to vote now and then tell them you can't vote until you're it's essentially arbitrary.
I would love to raise the voting age.
There's some pluses and minuses to it. I don't want people to have less of a vote, but if you're going to have less of a vote, there should just be less of consequences. Because now we move back the whole disciplinary actions. You're 21's now the adult. Yeah. So that's the consequences that go with that.
You can go to juvie up until 21.
Yeah. So you can't you can be tried an adult in the most extreme cases, but for the most part, your misdemeanors just fall off the record.
What do they call that when kids graduate high school and then they take a year off to
gap year.
A gap
year.
They could have a gap year for juvie.
Yeah, they absolutely could. Have a couple years here. All right. Any closing thoughts here on the pistol braces, ATF, NFA, anything?
No, we're screwed. This is we're in trouble. This country's in trouble.
Oh well, yeah. Are we screwed because they're bringing back the pistol braces?
No. I mean, the whole thing is screwed. We're gonna have multi wars and multi theaters. Washington's screwed up. They're
glass half full. You put in a new beer and you're a glass half full guy. What the hell?
It's scary stuff. Yeah. I'm really concerned about the next few years.
So let me take an opposite approach to that. I'm a bit more optimistic, and let me start the gun part of things. So we're seeing two conflicts here, Ukraine and Israel. Both prior to their conflicts had you weren't allowed to own a gun, or if you could, it's very restrictive and it's very bad, and it's a lot of hoops to jump through. So what we're seeing now is Ukraine is actively giving guns to any single person who wants it.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's absolutely no limits outside of, I guess, explosives, because they're using them for their military, so we can't give them to civilian Joe. With Israel, same thing. We saw the attacks on the with the Hamas onto the civilians.
Yeah.
Civilians couldn't own guns, and now we're starting to see how beneficial it is to have an armed populace when you're in an area that is hostile towards you.
Sure.
I see that making waves across at least Europe, and eventually, well, it's already here. Like, it's not news here, but most of Europe starts to see the benefits of having an armed populace, especially when you have a foreign adversary right next to you. So do we see gun culture expand across a place where it was probably the most fervently against? If you're ever to talk to a British person at the bar and you harass them about, I don't know, whatever,
Right.
king and queen, like, well, you got school shootings, like, well, but there's a benefit to having an armed populace.
Well, they get school stabbings.
Yeah,
So.
school acid throwings.
Right.
There used to be they would freeze eggs and they would throw them at you, because if you throw food at someone, it's not counted as a felony. But if you threw like a ball of ice or something, that's counted as a felony. So they would freeze eggs, and it's just like, well, I'm just throwing food at someone. Like, well, all right, Johnny, you're off the hook on this
Holy
one.
moly.
So it's and like,
I thought Americans would try to do anything to get around any law.
yeah. Well, I mean, we see the stabbings. They're starting to regulate this. They're starting to regulate how big of knives and such you can have in England. That's why acid attacks became
Acid attacks.
They would have a bottle of acid and throw it in your face.
Yeah,
and it's same misdemeanor.
I don't like the word gun culture. I like the word self-defense culture. The
Okay.
culture of self-defense, because that's what it is. I mean, I purposely bank at a bank that doesn't have a no guns sign allowed, so
Okay.
I can conceal carry into my bank that I go into. I avoid doing business with places that don't have or that do have no guns allowed signs.
Okay.
Just try to avoid.
Oh yeah, vote with your dollars. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so I think we're a self-defense culture. I think
Agree.
overall, we can't help it that there are certain pockets in certain areas where people are just shooting each other.
Yeah.
That would happen even if guns were illegal completely. So
They'd find ways to harm each other.
yeah,
You're not going to get rid of all malice
No.
anywhere ever.
no. So it's nice to see that the self-defense idea is growing around the world, because I think that is something that for a long time had been uniquely American.
Yep. I agree. And I also think with Matt Gaetz, with his positions in Congress, he has a rare point where one person does have the leverage and the sway to be able to make things a little bit better for the American people. And I do wish a little bit that he would kind of calm down some of the conspiracy theorists, because I see this might be lost in history as an opportunity for some American individual to come up from the, not so the ashes, but have an opportunity to change things for the better for all of the citizens. So I don't see single issue spending bills as a negative for the United States citizens. I don't see Congress people banning stock trades. I don't see how that's a con for the average American person. Term limits, I don't see how that's a con for or for the average American citizen. So he's putting this platform out there, and he's been very consistent on it. So I do have to pride him on his ability and his braveness. It's really bravery. There's definitely a majority of the Republican Party that does not want him to say these things, that doesn't want him to be in this type of power position. So I look at that and I see that glass half full. I see, like, maybe he doesn't get it done, but eventually enough people, just like the idea of the Tea Party. Tea Party did a few good things. It just didn't quite have the teeth to keep going. I see this as an opportunity to keep that ball rolling. So that's where I will end it here tonight. Brian, do you have any closing thoughts here?
Alex actually just chimed in.
Yeah,
Oh, man. He is well timed with that. Cheers, boys. Great job today. Still looking for the dock in the basement of Mar-a-Lago. Hope to
Hasn't
be
found
out.
him yet. Hope he brings them next time.
Yeah, hope to be out next week.
All
Or next
right.
week. But something I wanted to just clarify that when you guys were talking about the pistol brace and the NFA, you were not talking about bump stocks for assault rifles, and you were not talking about the NRA association. You were talking
Correct.
about the bill.
Yeah, the NFA, the National Firearms Act. It is it's a piece of legislation. It's like the Patriot Act or any of these funding bills. The bump stocks, what makes them a little bit different is it's a mechanism to be able to reset your trigger faster, to be able to shoot faster. Those were banned right around the Las Vegas shooting, I think, right around that time, and then those came back because they're not exactly. It's more of a mechanism and a way of doing things versus an actual part of the gun.
That's right. It's a separate part. It's designed to just make it go. Boop, 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 boop,
Yeah,
boop, boop,
there's
boop,
a, there's
boop,
a
boop, boop, boop,
technique
boop.
to it. It's not like an auto sear and a machine gun where it just,
Right.
you hold the trigger down. There's no extra effort outside of pulling the trigger.
The trigger still has to be pulled each and every time a bullet hits, but there's a spring mechanism and the bump stock
You
that
got to be able to time it.
that-
It's not. You can't legitimately just pick one up without knowing what you're doing.
Yeah,
and
it
use
takes work.
It takes work. It's kind of a skill. You could probably use it fairly quickly.
Sure.
With enough,
Yeah,
with
I would
fairly
say.
quick practice, you
Yeah.
probably get the hang of it. But it's not. Yeah, it's a bit of a different thing. Although bump stocks are now legal. They're back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the reality is, if you've ever shot an AR-15 or an AK-47 and you're pulling the trigger rapidly, that the barrel tends to just keep rising.
Yeah,
At least it does for me, because I'm not the bulkiest guy in the world here, and it just keeps going up because eventually, there's still some kick to it.
Eventually it'll keep going up.
Yeah,
It's a reaction. It's a small explosion happening in your hands multiple times a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, it's an extremely expensive way to
to
shoot the gun.
Jesus,
30
yeah.
rounds in like 5-6 seconds.
So,
Probably.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we made you laugh, if we made you cry,
If we made you hurl,
if we made you just laugh and discuss or enjoyment, please absolutely support the channel, subscribe, like the video, share it amongst your friends here. I know our buddy Alex will be begging and dying for you to get us here on Rumble. Rumble's the big one. If anyone's got a Rumble account, we need like 5 or more people. We would love to have you there so we can stream on there. But we'll be here next week, same time, maybe with a different cast of characters. Who knows? Alex could be in the basement, stuck in Mar-a-Lago, still finding those documents.
You never know.
Yeah. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. And Don, it was an absolute pleasure having
Great
you
to
here
be
for this
here.
discussion. Brian,
Yes, I
as
agree.
always, making that magic happen behind the keyboards.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Brian.
People.